Okay, so good morning, everybody. Welcome to another one of our bite-sized training sessions. Today we are going to talk about floating labels on input boxes using the Profound UI product. Before I go on straight on to the presentation, what I'll do is talk a little bit about bite-sized training first of all. So Byte-Sized Training is a regular monthly training session that we develop from a topic from one of our portfolio products, and it's us reaching out and giving something free to the client. So really want to encourage you to join in with these sessions. As I said before, they are free. If you receive an invite and you think there may be somebody else in your organisation that would find this interesting, please by all means forward that invite on to them and just give them a brief update as to what the bite-sized training sessions are all about. So they're designed some sort of 15 minutes to 30 minutes, and what we do is we take a topic from one of our product portfolios and we elaborate and we show you a working example of those. So if you've got any particular interests or you're getting stuck with something, just send us an email during the month and we'll try and plan that in for either the following month or the one after that. And we're really keen to receive your feedback and welcome the opportunity to build something for a particular interest of yours. So that's what Bite-Sized Training is all about. Today we are going to talk about floating placeholders within the Profound UI product. Now, just to wind the clock back a little bit and talk about how we used to develop screens using the traditional placeholders. So in front of you, you see a screen, and typical screen where we've got input controls, as you can see in the white boxes, and you've got a label assigned to each of those input boxes, or in this case, some of them, but not all of them. And we have the label itself is completely separate from the input control. So we make an assumption that the customer code, when we're referring to the customer code, we're looking at the input field to the right-hand side of that. That's an assumption that we make. In the address box, you've got 4 or 5 address input controls, all labeled with the address. So we're assuming that those 5 labels, just by looking at the visual display of this, that logic would say that the boxes that stack up underneath are also related to the address. Now, it's very simple to see this and tie up that relationship when everything's looking fairly straightforward and it's not a cluttered screen. But when you look at some more complex screens and we're trying to push more information onto each of those screens, this assumption sometimes becomes a little bit cloudy, and we look at the fields and think, well, which one is that referring to? Is it the one above or is it the one below? Okay, so that's our traditional way of designing screens. With the new way of designing screens, we have this ability to create a placeholder, and the placeholder can float, and we've got various different options, and we can assign those to all of the input controls within the screen panel. So in this particular case, where I've got a text box, I've just created a text box on the canvas, as it were, called text box 1, and then we've got some new options within the Profound UI product, which gives us the ability to specify an empty text. So this is what appears in the input control when there's no value in that input control. And I'll come on to show you an example of this, but I'm showing you the actual parameters we've got available to us. So that would manifest itself when the box is empty. It would tell you, and we can use that for putting descriptions to say which fields are mandatory, which ones are optional, and so on. And then we have a placeholder which floats within the frame of the input control. In this case, it's customer control, and I can then say whether that placeholder floats or doesn't float, so I can switch it on and off. So the next screen that you'll see is this is a more modern. Now you have to excuse the colouring. I chose to use pink and grey so it stands out. It's not something I would encourage you to use in a design, because it looks a little bit like the inside of a McDonald's. But ideally, what you want to do is design this around your own colour schemes. But for this session, we've got grey and pink and white, at least so we can identify the differences. So if I look at the input box called customer control, you notice first of all I've taken all the labels away. There are no separate labels. The label is now embedded within the actual input control box itself. So the word customer control has been assigned to this first input box, and it's to appear when there's a blank entry. So when the screen is first displayed and everything's empty, and you're waiting for the user to input this, that field itself will contain the word customer code. Okay, the next one down is a placeholder, which appears in the frame. So if you look at the address line 1 box, we've got a text called address line 1. In addition to the blank field descriptor, which in this case is mandatory, so we're saying that the entry for this field is mandatory. We're also saying that the actual input control is an address line 1 by identifying this placeholder name in the actual frame. Now underneath that, in address line 2, I've now taken away the floating placeholder name, and it's only using the blank field descriptor. So you can see, using a mixture of these input controls and the definitions and floating placeholder names, you can customize your screen to work exactly how you want it to, how you want to achieve that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to now go onto the actual a live system, and I will show you how it works. So bear in mind what we've just seen. Here's our traditional screen where we've got customer code, and you can tab and type and so on. No difference there. But when we come onto the new modern input control with floating placeholder names, everything that's blank has now got the name embedded within the input control itself. So I've taken all the labels away, and I now type into the field ABC001 because that's my customer code. I tab to the next field, and it's identified this as an address line 1 by showing me the placeholder name in the title. So if I tab over that, you'll now see that the address line 1 is still floating within the actual box, but the input control itself has been filled with the word mandatory, because I set that as this is what to display when it's blank. Now if I tab from address line 2 into 3, you'll see that the placeholder name doesn't exist, and that's because I've turned it off. So when you look at this particular input field, we can control the way it looks and feels with what gets displayed when there's a blank input, and what gets displayed when there's a placeholder text assigned. But also we can float that so that when the focus is moved away from that screen, it disappears. So you can use this to sort of add more clarity. Now, because this is a browser application rather than a green screen now, it also has these auto fill options. So if I click on the autofill, it now shows me all the content for the address that I've clicked on, and it's highlighted this in a blue color. You can see the colors have changed slightly, and where I've got an empty input in address line 3, I don't get this blue shading, so I can tell the difference between data that's been entered and data that's blank by default. And when it's blank, it tells me what that field is as a descriptor. So the mobile itself, the mobile number at the bottom of the screen has not been entered, and that says mandatory, so that's a mandatory field that needs to be entered. The address line 3 is also filled with address line 3 because it's blank, but you can see the difference in that the mobile has got a floating placeholder name, and the address line 3 hasn't, and that's because I've turned that facility off. So you can take control, you can modernize the screen now and get rid of all the placeholder names that were separate as a label and embed them within the actual input fields. And this takes all the assumptions away from, is that label relating to this field, because it's now actually located in the field itself. And this is just, these are some new features. There are many more that have been released in the Profound UI product, so maybe we'll cover some of those in future sessions. So I'm going to go back to my presentation now. That's the end of this particular bite-sized training course. On our website, if you go to the links there, and I'll put the link into the YouTube video so that you can get access to it. But this is our link to our bite-sized training sessions, and you can see from there there's a list. We split them by output management solutions and modernization, application modernization solutions, so you can see the difference. We also have the ability for you to book your space, so you basically come into here. Let's make that a little bit bigger, so you can fill in your email address, select which bite-sized training session you're interested in, and click on book my space, and we'll do the rest for you. We'll send out the invitation and so on. So just look out, bookmark that page, keep an eye on that every so often. But as I say, if you've got a particular interest, reach out, tell us what you want, and we'll build something and we'll put that into the program. So our social media, contact us again. I'll put these into the YouTube video. We've got LinkedIn page, a Twitter page, and a subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you click on the notifications button, we will notify you every time there's a new video released, and you'll get updated as things change. So thank you all very much for attending today's bite-sized training session.